Buddha.
What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What is going on, everybody? How's everyone doing today? What is going on? Shout out to the chat. What is going on, folks? I should have our special guest here momentarily, so we'll just begin the conversation here shortly. So how's everybody doing today? How is your Wednesday going? It is May 29th. Hopefully you're all having a great week. Hopefully for a lot of you, it's been a short week since it's Memorial Day on Monday. So, this week, again, being shorter. May is almost over. We're almost in June. How wild is that, man? Where does the time go? Where does the year go? I mean, we're almost going to be in June here. So it's crazy, but shout out to the chat. Make sure you all hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share this out with anybody you know. I would greatly appreciate it. And any support you give to this channel is greatly appreciated as well. So let me shout out the chat real quick. We got CT Cards, Stephen B, Ken, Jake Boss. What is going on, folks? What is going on? We got Reikia channel. What's going on? Dev Finch, what's up? How you doing? Uncle Tats from the Prince Stripe Chronicles podcast. What's going on, Uncle Tats? Make sure you guys tune into Uncle Tats' show. Make sure you all are subscribed. If you're not subscribed, what are you doing? Jonathan, what's going on? How you doing? Lou, what's up, Lou? Good afternoon to you. So, while we're waiting, and I see Raymond here. What's going on, Raymond? I just saw you. While we're waiting, I don't know how many of you watched last night's game. I know it was a late night game. Let's talk about it for a little bit. It was a game that they should have won, right? Obviously Anthony Rizzo made that error, and it did affect the game. But at the same time, let's be honest as well. Yankees were getting on base, they were getting hits, they just weren't scoring any runs. So they weren't able to capitalize. So that was a little bit of a frustration too. So the bats were a bit of a problem as well, right? But obviously the infield from the errors from the infield, the misplays from the infield, it still continues to be a problem. So hopefully that gets hit. So, we'll see what happens. But I see Sunil in here as well. What's up? What's up, Sunil? How you doing? But again, last night's game, it should have been won. Let's hope that the Yankees can bounce back and win today. It'll be good. They need to get 2 out of 3 and win this series. In my opinion, it should have been a sweep. But that's just me. That's just my opinion. Let me know what the rest of you think. But these things happen, right? The Yankees they're still 18 games over 500. DJ LeMahieu made his comeback yesterday. So things are looking good. Things are still good for the Yankees. Hopefully soon, we'll have Garrett Cole come back, and let's hope for some big things. I look at the game like it's going to happen sometime. Yeah, it does. 162 games. I mean, unfortunately, games like this are going to happen. It's baseball. You win or you lose, just like any sport. But let me just send a quick text here. Sorry, I'm not ignoring you guys. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, the Yankees set a major league record last night, 15 consecutive games where the starter has gone 5 innings and given up 2 runs or less. Yeah, our starters have been on a roll. And Nestor, one of the things that we were complaining about with Nestor was that he was not he does not pitch well when he's away from Yankee Stadium. But last night he pitched well. He gave up that 2-run shot, but then after that, he pitched exceptionally well. He did fine. He did fine. So it's just there was a couple of mistakes that the other players made, and unfortunately they ended up losing the game. What are you going to do? Juan Soto went up in the bottom of the ninth. I thought he had that solo shot, but it just fell short. But man, that would have been awesome if he was able to tie up the game. And how about Juan Soto? I mean, you got it. They got to sign him. They have to sign him. And I know the Yankees are going to try and find a way to sign him. So, we'll just have to wait and see how everything shapes up. And Nitin Ramachandra, what's going on, Nitin? How you doing, man? Hopefully you're doing well. We're ready, man. We're ready. So everybody's ready. Everybody's excited. I see Jake Boss here. What's up, Jake? How you doing? End up a handful of games, right? Yeah, I mean, does happen from time to time there, Uncle Tats, no doubt. Yeah, totally ready. Nitin, hopefully you and your family are doing well. This Friday, May 31st I see. All right. Well, folks in the chat, make sure you all send your prayers, your positive thoughts to Nitin and his family. He just lost his grandfather here a couple of days ago, and it's kind of a hard time, a tough time. So anytime you lose family, it's never easy. So again, Nitin, our thoughts are with you. My condolences to you and the family. So right, exactly. Cortes did his part. The score should have been 6-2, right? The way they were getting guys on base. They just couldn't capitalize. And Ken, it's also worth noting that your boy Austin Wells got that RBI. I had to point that out, man. Yeah, we can't have Ozzy Osbourne moments. Oh boy. It must be. We got to test them for drugs. Then is that my understanding? So, yep, exactly. See, CT Cards is saying it too. Wells did get an RBI. See, Ken, Wells is seeing your comments, and he's like, "All right, I'm going to show this guy, D-Rod, the lock is working. Good afternoon to you, man. What's going on, bro? How's your day? How's Florida? You getting toasty out there or what?" Yeah, I mean Rizzo and Torres' defense, it's very suspect. I don't know what's going on. Rizzo, I'm surprised. There's some of those plays that he's missed, he normally makes. Who knows? It could just be one of those off things, but it is what it is. Let's just hope he doesn't make mistakes like that moving forward. I do think that he needs a day off, but again, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah. Get bench segment, but Wells did bounce a ball past the second. Yeah, he did, but he also got the RBI. He drove a run in. So Yankees bats, it wasn't alive, but he did get that third run. So Dominguez has 1 hit and 2 at bats. Yeah, I know he's playing center field today, so I do know that. So he is leading off. But as far as today's matchup goes, let's check this out. Yeah, even bad teams win 60 games. Holmes showing some cracks. I mean, listen, look, at some point, Clay Holmes wasn't going to have like a perfect season, right? He wasn't going to have a 0.00 ERA. There was going to be a couple of games where he was going to blow the game, like he was going to give up some runs and the team loses. I mean, I'm not saying now, I'm not trying to be negative. I'm not trying to say, oh, well, it was bound to it's going to happen. I mean, no closer has a perfect season. Not even Mariano had a perfect season. Mariano had his moments as well. So, let's let's give Clay Holmes some credit. He's been pretty solid so far. Yeah, seriously. I mean, DJ being back is key, right? DJ being back is key. You got to give Rizzo a day off. I mean, he needs it. He needs it. So, let's see. Let's see what happens. Maybe they sit Rizzo today. And yeah, I was happy to see DJ get on base last night too, man. 100%. I agree. Vivas is 2 for 2 with a walk and 2 RBIs. Cool. All right. I like that. Holmes wasn't the problem. Defense has cost us. Yeah, I'm not putting that game on Holmes at all. So I'm sorry. I wouldn't say a month off there, Lou. Let's not fly off the handle here. Well, we'll see, D-Rod. We'll see. There's always going to be like a rough patch that players go through, and this could be one of those rough patches. But if it carries on for a longer period of time, then yeah, we'll probably there needs to be a level of concern. So yeah, the defense was definitely the issue. Getting it done, but the bullpen is starting to show. Yeah, the bullpens they're showing some cracks, like you said, Ken. Hopefully they can bounce back from it. That's what we hope for, but we'll see, right? We'll see. What's up, Void Star? Jim Leyritz, childhood hero of mine. I remember when the Yankees got him. Still got his rookie card to this day. That's awesome. Oh, man. All right, so Jim Leyritz says he's 10 minutes. All right, folks. Thank you, Nathan, for that update. He's at the beach and in West Coast time. He needs to find better reception. Understood. I get it. So, all right, folks. So Jim Leyritz is on the way. What up, Demon D? What's going on? So we are waiting. Yeah, Barry, exactly. I know it's just, again, the Yankees are 18 games over 500. I don't think the only critique I'll make, and I know some people will be in agreement on this, is that the Yankees do need to, at the deadline, they need to look for a lefty reliever. All right. So, Gleyber, he's not coming back. Whether he played good this season or didn't play good, no matter how his season ends up, the Yankees aren't going to sign him back. The Yankees aren't going to sign him back. I can't envision the Yankees giving him 20 to 25 million. But folks in the chat, real quick, a quick pause. So make sure you all hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share this out with anybody you know. Hopefully we get Jim Leyritz on here up here in 10 minutes. And any support you give to this channel is greatly appreciated, and I thank you for it. It does mean the world to me. So, and I thank you. It's Holmes gave up, weren't bad. Yeah, they weren't bad pitches. And listen, the thing with the Yankees is just like I said, they're missing a couple of key guys. I remember, obviously Cole is that one of those key guys, right? And a lot of people were thinking, okay, oh no, like Cole is out. How long is he going to be out for? This team is going to play bad. They're not going to make the playoffs. And look at what they're doing without Cole. I mean, it's incredible. So yeah, the bullpen is getting a little worn out, and that's what I was worried about. So Yeah, exactly. And this is without Cole. Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you're not critiquing, what are you doing? So, and voice start. What are you saying here? You're saying what about Spencer Jones not playing outfield? Um, outfield. What if he can take over at first? I mean, that's been a conversation. The dude is 6'6". If he can handle first, we may. Yeah, I mean, they could call. They could also call up TJ Rumfield and play first base too. I mean, he could be an option for next season, assuming they don't pick up Rizzo's option. But Spencer Jones playing first base, there's been a conversation about that. And my guy Nitin Ramachandra is telling us, should I say, that his team is also working on Johnny Damon to get Johnny Damon on the show. That would be awesome. Thank you for that, Nitin. I appreciate that. You guys, you guys over there at the NR Hour, man. You guys do an amazing job working, getting these guests together um, and getting them on shows and doing your thing at these meetups at the Woodbridge Brewing Company. So shout out to Nitin and his team, man. They work extremely hard. So kudos to you and your team, man. You guys continue grinding. I plan on having more guests. I'm going to have another guest later on today at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you all are able to jump on that, I'll have Luis Lopez on the show. And then I have another guest tomorrow as well. So stay tuned, folks. I'm going to have more, whether it be current athletes, former athletes, come on the show. I'm also thinking about maybe inviting athletes from other sports to come on the show, because why not? And maybe that's something I do. Maybe when baseball's in the off season, right? It's always good to talk with former athletes, no matter what sport they play. But yeah, that would be awesome to have Johnny Damon on here. That would be amazing. Well, you could always ask that question. So just like when Jim Leyritz jumps on, folks, make sure if you all have any questions, I'll get to as many questions as I possibly can. If you all have any questions for Jim Leyritz, appreciate it, and I'll get to as many questions as I can. I'm looking forward to this conversation. So I'll be honest, I never thought in a million years that I'd be talking to former athletes. I never thought I'd be talking to a guy like Jim Leyritz. It's pretty wild, man. Life is crazy. You never know what's going to happen. Torres is Sanchez 2.0. Bad defense, good bat, bad. But bad is not good anymore. Yeah, unfortunately, man. It didn't work out with Sanchez. It's not working out with Torres. Oh, I would love to get Nick Swisher. Maybe I could talk to Nitin about that too. I like his energy. What's up, Chet? It's only one game, but for some reason, DJ looks old, and Rizzo definitely not coming back next year. His defense, yeah, Ben Rice could be an option too. I don't know. I see Ben. I wouldn't be surprised if they use Ben Rice as a trade piece. Yeah, we'll see what happens with Spencer Jones. I mean, what I heard, and I'd have to talk with guys like Dane and Rob, who focus a lot on on the prospects for the Yankees. I hear they made some adjustments to Spencer Jones's bat, so maybe he's trying to adapt to that, and maybe that's why he's struggling right now. I'm not exactly sure, but that's something I'll have to ask them about. Yeah, well, it's not even Cashman that said anything about the payroll. It was Hal Steinbrenner. But Hal Steinbrenner didn't say something that we shouldn't be surprised about what he said. So, yeah, I don't want to knock anybody out, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes besides them playing the game. I mean, these guys are still human at the end of the day, so they not to get all soft here. I mean, but they also have their emotions. They also have their feelings too. So they're human too at the end of the day, Few miles. I've seen him around a few times. Lots. I'm sure it doesn't surprise me. It's just like Juan Rincon yesterday, who I had in the morning. Which shout out to Juan for coming on. That was a fun conversation. He lives around the Boca Raton area, if I'm not mistaken. So he lives in Florida. And Adron Chambers, who I interviewed in early evening yesterday, same thing with him. He lives in the Pensacola area. So, and he's got a book coming out. So look out for his book. It's called From Pensacola to the World Series. So look out for his book. Yeah, I'll make sure I'll make sure I'll talk from a distance so my ears don't get hurt. And he could be, but I've also heard that he could be he might be part of the Yankees' future plans, but we'll see. The Yankees have a plethora of catchers right now. So who knows what's going to happen? Well, here's the thing about the payroll. Everybody wants to compare George and Hal. Like during George's time, there was no luxury tax. So George was able to sign whoever. These days, it's like you got to be careful. And I'm pretty sure Hal Steinbrenner is getting sick and tired of shelling out money to smaller market teams that don't build on their team either. And all the owners do is just pocket their money. Jeter, Donnie, and Willie Randolph. Yeah, I know Jeter would be a tough one to get on. Donnie, probably the same thing. Willie Randolph could be. I mean, that'd be awesome to talk to Willie Randolph. That's probably not going to happen. Soto deferring payments, not likely. Not likely. Todd Frazier? Yeah, maybe. Yeah. No, I really enjoyed Chambers. Chambers last night. Adron Chambers was a great guy to talk to, man. I love talking to him. So Ken Who's replacement if he's traded, calling up Rice or anyone else. Well, I'll have Ken answer that question. The thing is, if you trade him, like who's going to take him and what do you get back for him? He doesn't have like a lot of value. I mean, he's under control for this year and next season. I mean, you'd have to involve another player in that if you're trying to trade him. So I mean, something's got to happen on the right side of the infield, right? Whether you bench Gleyber or you bench Rizzo, I think it'll be good for them. I'm not saying bench them for a long time, but something needs to happen. And you're saying call up Rice or Narvaez, yeah, that's it could happen. It could happen. So. Sign Donnie baseball card. Oh wow. Yeah. Well, next time, Jason from 161 River Ave does a live stream. He'll talk baseball cards. So make sure you subscribe to his channel. Make sure you jump on his live stream, man. So opt out for Soto, maybe. Yeah. I'm sure there's going to be one or two opt outs in his contract, no doubt. What's up, Brad? If you missed it, Pete at NYU had a prospects roundtable last night with Dane, Carlos, Yankee. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Did they discuss anything about the catchers or what was some key things that they talked about there, Brad? You could, if you want to shed some light on that. Yeah, I mean that's probably the best you can get for Grisham is a low level arm. I mean, you're not going to get a lot for him. Yeah, Rumfield is not. He's probably not going to be brought up this year. I see him maybe next season. So. Yeah, could be. Yep. Uncle Tats's favorite critic, Brad. They're both in the chat together. Oh, this is going to be a lot of fun. You got a public service announcement. Gleyber Torres, I sell cheap. And folks in the chat, I do have our guest in the back. I have Mr. Jim Leyritz waiting in the back. Sir, give me a thumbs up. Let me know you're ready to go. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and bring him up right now. Folks in the chat, let's welcome Jim Leyritz to the show. Jim, how's it going? Oh, I cannot hear you. I cannot hear you. You might have your mic shut off. Yeah, you might have make sure your mic isn't muted. You might have to jump back out and come back. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties. All good. Hold on, folks. Yeah, if you can if you want to refresh, maybe refresh it and then come back. Sorry about that, folks. I still can't. You might have to close it out altogether and then come back there, Jim. Sorry about that, folks. We're having some technical difficulties with Jim. So sending this text real quick. Yeah, well, who's to say that the Yankees are going to get Murakami? I don't know why we're assuming this. So let's try this one more time. Let's get you up here. Ready to go, man? Oh, here we go.
Can we hear it?
I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
We have action. We have action.
We have action, man.
My bad, man. You know what? I'm in California. We get the 3-hour time difference.
Yeah.
I had it for 12 o'clock Pacific. And I had my little studio all set up and everything. When he called me, I was down at the beach. I'm like getting my workout in. So I was able to make it back in time. So let's get started.
No, you're good, man. You're good. I started chatting with the folks here. So we were just waiting on you. No, it's all good, man. I'm glad you came on. Thank you for taking the time to come on. Greatly appreciate it, man. I mean, to interview a guy like you, I was looking forward to this day, man. So to this morning. So thank you so much for coming on.
No, good to be on with you.
Thank you. So take us through the journey, man. How did you get started in the sport of baseball? Like, how did it begin for you? How did that journey begin? Were there other sports that you played growing up? And if you did, why baseball?
Yeah, no, I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio. My father actually played basketball at Kent State University, so basketball was my first love. Mm-hmm. I was 5'10" as a freshman in high school, but unfortunately, by the time I was a senior, I was still 5'10". So I was an early sprouter. And after my junior year of high school, my dad basically pulled me aside and said, "Jimmy, listen, you could play college basketball and be good, but you have a chance to play professional baseball. Let's figure out what you want to do your senior year and concentrate on whatever that one sport is." And, because I grew up in Ohio, so we had to play different sports. And I said, "You know what, Dad? I love basketball, but I want to be a professional athlete." So I still played my senior year in high school at basketball, still led the team in scoring and everything else. But instead of staying after shooting free throws, shooting extra baskets, I went upstairs and started preparing, hitting off a batting tee, getting ready for the baseball season. Had a great senior year in high school and ended up breaking my foot 4 days before the draft playing tennis. I was supposed to be, I grew up in Cincinnati. Barry Larkin and I actually played on the same summer team together. And Barry was supposed to be the number 1 pick out of Cincinnati. I was supposed to be the number 2. And I ended up breaking my foot. Now, the crazy part of that whole story is the team that was looking at me to draft me while I was out playing tennis had called my dad and said, hey, does your kid want to sign or does he want to go to college? Because back then, that's kind of how they handled the draft. And my dad said, well, I'll ask him when he gets home. And I came home with a cast on my foot. And he goes, what the hell did you do? I said, Dad, not a big deal. I'm only out 2 weeks. It's just a small hairline fracture. And he goes, oh, it's a big deal. I just got a phone call from 2 scouts that want to sign you in 4 days. Now I got to tell them you got a broken foot. And I'll make the story short because it's a long story. But
all good.
Those 2 scouts passed on me, came back and watched me play 5 weeks later with the summer team with Barry Larkin, and said to my father, we want to sign him. My dad said, give him 10 grand. They said, we can only give him 5. My dad said, screw that, he's going to college. So I went to college, junior college for 2 years at Middle Georgia, never got drafted, led the league in hitting, but I still wasn't catching. I couldn't catch yet. So I was playing third base in the outfield. And then I went to University of Kentucky for a year, didn't get drafted, playing third base. So I decided to go out to Hayes, Kansas in the Jayhawk League, kind of like the Cape Cod League up on the East Coast. Mm-hmm. And I told the coach out there, I want to go back to catching some games. I started catching, and all of a sudden a Yankee scout came out to me and said, hey, what are you doing catching? I said, I can catch. My coach at Kentucky wouldn't let me because his nephew was the starting catcher. And he goes, well, we want to sign you now that we know you can catch. My dad flew out. 2 days later, I signed with the New York Yankees. Now, the irony of that story is those 2 scouts that passed on me for $5,000, when I hit the home run in Atlanta Fulton County Stadium, they were sitting in John Schuerholz's box. They were Atlanta Braves scouts out of Cincinnati. The Braves were the team that did not sign me for that extra $5 grand. Had they signed me, none of that would have ever happened in '96. And the Braves could have went on to be the team of the decade. Instead, the Yankees did.
Well, as a Yankees fan, we appreciate you. So, yeah. And if I understand correct, you were undrafted, right? And the Yankees signed mm-hmm. you. So, what was? I mean, man, it sounds like you had to overcome a lot of adversity, had to overcome a lot of struggles. I mean, what was going through your mind during that time? Like, what were you thinking? Like, did you stuck it out? I mean, was there ever a time where you felt like, man, you know what? I don't think this is it for me. And
yeah, I mean, listen, in Double A, I wanted to give up. First game of the season in Double A in 1988, I got hit in the face with a pitch, totally shattered all my teeth. It was bad. I came back to play 2 days later, ended up tearing ligaments in my ankle, was out for 3 weeks with that. When I came back, the first pitch, I went back to catching. The first time behind the plate, I got a foul tip off my finger, broke my finger.
Jeez.
And basically called my dad up and said, Dad, I don't know. I'm making $750 a month. One of my best friends had just been released by the Dodgers, went back home to Cincinnati, Ohio, working for Nabisco, was making $45,000. I'm like, Dad, I should just come home and get a job. And he looked at me and he said, son, as long as they give you a uniform, you ain't coming home. And I stuck it out. And thank God, because 2 years later, I was up in the big leagues.
Yeah, no doubt. So you went through that process, right? And then you get a phone call from the Yankees saying that they want you. What was that feeling like, man? I mean, a team like the New York Yankees, obviously, the greatest baseball team out there. What was
it's actually funny. At the time when the Yankees talked to me in Hayes, Kansas, at the NBC tournament in Wichita, when they first started talking to my dad and I, they were the worst team they were one of the worst teams in baseball in the 80s. And what happened was there was 2 teams that were vying for me to sign. There was the Yankees and the Kansas City Royals. And if you remember, this is 1985. This is when the Royals had just won the World Series. Mm-hmm. And my dad came out to Kansas and said, Jimmy, the Royals just won the World Series. They got a great minor league system. The Yankees stink right now, and their minor league system is terrible. You got a better shot of going through the ranks quicker with them. But what really got my mother, was that the Yankees said if he doesn't make it and wants to go back for his senior year of college, we will pay for it. And the Kansas City Royals wouldn't do that, and we ended up signing with the New York Yankees.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's awesome. So, you joined the Yankees at a time where it wasn't like the best team around at the time, so you were kind of that part of that building process because, you also had, guys like Bernie Williams, who was also on that team too. He was part of that building process. And then slowly but surely, you all started getting a team together, I know 95, like you all just fell short. I mean, that was against the Mariners. And obviously that the year after, you had Jeter, you had O'Neill. You were on that team, clearly. We know you were on that team. So,
well, yeah, you know what it is
yeah.
Andy Stankiewicz said it in George Torres' book. They interviewed him one time about Bernie Williams and myself, because Bernie and I, we all played together in the minor leagues. And it was me, Stankiewicz, Moss, Azokar. There was a bunch of us that got called up. But when I got called up in 1990, G. Michael brought me in and said, listen, this is your opportunity to get some of these other guys an opportunity that we haven't given you guys in the minor leagues. If you get off to a good start, that'll open up the door for a lot of other guys. And sure enough, I got off to a great start. But most of all, even Dave LaPointe was quoted as saying, the one thing that he loved about when he first met me coming up was that I was a young kid who didn't feel entitled, that I was working my ass off, that I had that grit, and I grew up with Pete Rose. That's how I had that grit. And LaPointe said, we need more kids like that. And sure enough, Kevin Moss comes up and he gets off to a great start. Azokar. And it just started building. Bernie Williams came up in the next year. In 1995, Sterling Hitchcock came. Later, Andy Pettit. And then we started, we brought in O'Neill and Boggs to miss some of the pieces that were missing. And by the time we got to 93, 94, we had a pretty formidable team growing with young kids, but also with the salty veterans too that we had.
Yeah, no, like I said, slowly but surely it started to build up, and you finally had a core together, a team together, and you were part of that. So it's just amazing to see that.
And the great thing about it was, my whole story, my whole life, not just baseball, but outside of baseball, is all about overcoming the odds, fighting for the truth. Don't settle for anything less than the truth. And man, it ain't easy sometimes. I made a lot of poor decisions as far as my ex-wife and some of the decisions I made there, my after baseball life, some of the decisions to drink and drive, and some of the other things that I went through. But all my whole story has been about, and I want people to understand, is it's about beating the odds. It's about not settling for what the truth is. And that's kind of what happened with, with my baseball career. By 1994, after we had the strike, we were primed to win.
Yeah.
And by 1995, we finally get Donnie to the playoffs. I hit the big home run against Seattle in extra innings. That was my first postseason big moment. And all of a sudden, Donnie leaves the next year. And in 1996, I become the most tenured Yankee on that team. I had the most service time of anybody that that lasted through that 90s era. And I was proud of that because it wasn't easy. They wanted to get rid of me. They sent me down in 91. The kids, the guys on the team in 91 never thought I would be back. I got called up in September. And like I said, by 96, I was the most tenured Yankee. And we had a good ball club. And I still don't know why to this day there is no 30 for 30 on that 96 team. With all of the great stories that we had that year, Joe Torre coming in, being told the clueless Joe from the beginning of the season. Yeah. Darryl Strawberry, Doc Gooden coming back from drug rehab, David Cohn, aneurysm, and then coming back from that. Joe Torre's brother getting a heart for the World Series games. I mean, all those stories that happened that year, how there is no 30 for 30 on that, just blows my mind. And, the greatest thing about that 96 team is that when they lost in 97, Gene Michael had George walk into his office and say, get rid of Torre, get rid of Mariano. We're done. We're starting over. He was so upset with Mariano giving up the home run to Alomar and the team not getting past that one-game playoff that he wanted to get rid of everybody. And all of a sudden, Gene Michael said, do you not remember 96, George? And George said, I'll give him one more year. And sure enough, they go on to that magical season in 98.
Yep, and I do remember 1998 like it was yesterday. So that was a memorable year. But you brought up Joe Torre, and and I'll get to a couple of questions from the people in the chat. They're asking you some questions, so they're all very excited to have you here. So again, thank you for the time. Because y'all had Buck Showalter as your manager. Now Corey. What was it like playing under both guys? I know experiences may differ, but I wanted to get your experience on it.
Well, there's a stat that I didn't know about, but Adam Jones is the only one ahead of me in tenure for playing for Buck Showalter. So, because I played with Buck all the way through the minor leagues and then up in the big leagues. And to me, I learned more about the game of baseball from Buck Showalter, sitting next to him on the bench, listening to him tell him, I'm going to make this move, watch what they do. He was the most intelligent manager I ever played for.
Mm-hmm.
Just a baseball junkie, and a guy that was the first one to the field and the last one to leave every single night through the minor leagues and even in the major leagues. And taught me so much about the game of baseball just listening to him. When he got fired and Joe Torre came in, it was different because Joe Torre was one of the greatest manager of people that I had ever played for, as far as knowing personalities, knowing how to handle egos, but always having that kind of that mono personality that didn't get too high or too low. And when he did speak to the team, which he didn't do a lot because he let us police ourselves pretty much, when he did speak to the team, we knew we were doing something wrong. And to play for him, and one of the things I always say to this day that Joe Torre was probably the smartest manager ever, is the team that he put behind him. The guys that he chose to coach, like Don Zimmer being his bench coach, Mel Stoudemire being the pitching coach, Willie Randolph, Chris Chambliss. Mm-hmm. He surrounded himself with former Yankees who were World Series, had been there before. And when we got into those situations, man, those coaches helped us so much to deal with everything that we were going to be going through. That's why I think we catapulted to what we did, to be able to come back from a 2-0 deficit from the Braves, to come back and win that series. And it was just such a great team atmosphere in that 96 club that, like I said, to this day, that 96 club is the only reason there was a dynasty in the late 90s. Had we not had 96, there would have been no Derek Jeter Day, no Andy Pettitte Day, no Mariano Rivera Day, no Joe Torre. None of those days happen if we don't win in 96, because he would have got rid of everybody in 97.
No doubt. And by the way, you need to make a phone call to ESPN on the 30 for 30, man. You need to make that happen, because that was a magical season, and that series, that World Series in '96 against the Braves, I remember watching, and I saw you hit that home run, and I'm like, no way. I was like, oh my God, what went through? How did you feel? Like I know you were like ecstatic, like beyond ecstatic. Like, what was that feeling like, man?
Crazy part about it was all I could think about was the 1995 home run against the Seattle in the playoffs, which was till this day my favorite moment ever, because it was a walk-off in Yankee Stadium after catching all 15 innings, and just the way the crowd was with Donnie hitting the home run, and it was just a crazy night. But all I could think about rounding the bases in '96 was, if we don't win, this home run will be a footnote like it was in '95.
Yeah.
Just like Aaron Boone's home run against the Red Sox is one of the greatest moments, but they didn't win the World Series, so it really didn't go down as big as it should have been. So all I could think about in '96 was, we got to win this game. And sure enough, we win that game. I take more pride in catching Game 5 with Andy Pettitte, because Joe Torre almost didn't catch me in Game 5. We had a couple arguments behind closed doors about me catching 5, and he ended up, letting me catch. And Andy pitches that gem of probably the greatest game he's pitched in the postseason. And then we go on to sweep them and win that series. There was nothing like that '96 season.
Yeah, that '96 season, like I said, I was a kid. I was a lot younger, but I still remember it though. I still remember staying up, and and I was super very excited. So for me to experience the Yankees' first World Series victory, that was like memorable for me. So that was that's something that will always stick with me for the rest of my life. So I really did appreciate that 1996 game. So that was amazing. But I want to get to a couple of questions from a few folks who are asking some questions here. So I'll bring up the first one here from Pinstripe Chronicles Podcast, Uncle Tats. Make sure you all subscribe here. He's saying, Jim started watching the Bronx Zoo special, and what was it like reliving those times?
Yeah, when I first got called up in 1990, Mel Hall and I were the only two guys that lived in the city. And those limousines that you had seen in some of those clips, I was in those limousines sometimes coming back to he would bring me back to the Bronx. I mean, from the Bronx back to our apartment in New York. I lived in Trump Park. He lived in Trump Tower. And it was some crazy times. For me, it was exciting because, we were getting the minor leaguers finally an opportunity because honestly, from 1986 to 1990 as a minor leaguer in the Yankee organization, you wanted to get traded because you didn't have a chance to get caught up to the big leagues. Kind of like right now, if you're in the minor leagues with the Yankees, you're kind of screwed because there's an all-star at every position, and so you're not going to get called up. We were that way in the late 80s, and I just remember, getting called up. The team was losing, 91, 93 games. Stump Merrill was our manager, who was a baseball lifer, but not much of a baseball guy as far as knowledge goes. Loved the game of baseball, and there was nobody that had more spirit than Stump. It just wasn't the IQ level that you needed to as a manager at the big league level. But yeah, I watched that 3-part series, and it was interesting because I lived that, and that was part of my my enshrine to New York and to into playing for the Yankees, and a lot of those stories I was a big part of.
Yeah, awesome. And another question here, one of our subscribers saying, Jim, were those high sliders you have respectively going to in batting practice?
Say it again.
So let me see. I think he might have reworded this question here. Hold on. Let me try to reread it to you. So he's saying, Jim, were those high slider pitches you have competitively thrown to in batting practice? I think he meant to continue that question, but Sunil, ask that question again when you can. I'll just move on to the next one here. So this one's Brad. He's asking, ask Jim, what was it like going from 95 to the change in 1996? I think you kind of covered that a little bit, but
yeah. Listen, like I said, 95, we were primed. We lost in a tough series in Seattle, but we got a little bit of a taste, and we always say the same thing. Once you've lost, when you're in that playoff atmosphere, you want to get back. And we were just so excited to be able to get back in 96 and be able to clinch before I think it was the last 2 or 3 days of the season. And like I said, once you get that little bit of a taste, we wanted to get back in 96, and we did not want to lose. And we did.
The mic. Check your settings again. Little bit of technical difficulties because you went out for a second. You went missing. You might have to refresh your page again. A little bit of technical difficulties. We'll have Jim Leyritz on here shortly, so I do apologize. All right, Sunil. Yeah, I see your question. Yeah, I saw the one that you originally posted. I was like, let me skip that for now. But I'll get to your question here momentarily. But yeah, guys, how do you guys feel so far about oh, here we go. All right, I think we're good.
All right, back again. Here we go.
All right. Well, no more technical difficulties. We'll be fine.
So give me the question again.
Yeah, so this was the last question we were talking about. It was what was it like going from 95 to the changes that the Yankees made in 1996?
Yeah, listen, it was a lot of changes in the coaching staff. It was not much of a change as far as the players go, except that we brought in Tino Martinez and Jeff Nelson, who we didn't know. And, and if you remember the month of April, Tino had a horrible April.
Yeah.
And he was being booed out of the stadium because he was trying to replace a legend in Don Mattingly. And finally hit that one grand slam in the rain that turned everything around. And finally he was considered a Yankee. And from that point on, we went on and we ended up having a great season. And, we finished off that season with that World Series championship.
Yeah, no, it was a memorable one. It was a memorable one. So it's something that us fans we always like to revisit and talk about. So let's hope the Yankees can be able to do it this year. They have a good team going this year. So let me get another question real quick. This is from Ken. He is asking, Jim, as a longtime catcher in Major League Baseball, what is your opinion of the reason for the drastic amount of elbow injuries and Tommy John surgeries?
Well, I can tell you what it is. If you ever talk to Roger Clemens, when he first came up in the big leagues, was throwing 98 miles an hour. And this is when they used to measure the ball crossing the plate, not out of your hand. And he was throwing 97, 98. And he said a pitching coach grabbed him one day and said, "Hey, what are you doing? You're throwing max effort every pitch. You're not going to last very long." And he said, "Learn to throw 93, 94. Make sure you hit your spots. And then when you need that 98, then you can reach back and get it. But if you start throwing 98 every single pitch, max effort on every breaking ball and everything else, you're not going to last very long, kid." And that's what Roger said. That's why I lasted as long as I did. With all these sabermetrics and all these other spin rates and all these other things that these guys are measuring themselves by, they are putting so much taxation on their bodies that they can't handle it. And unfortunately, it's starting in high school. And it's even getting worse in college. Right now, watching a college baseball game, I almost throw up, dude. It is so sick for me to see these pitchers looking at their watches, getting the pitch, what they should be throwing, not thinking, okay, this is what I see when I throw this pitch. This guy can't hit my slider. And so even though the sabermetric says I shouldn't throw him a slider, he ain't hitting my slider. And all of a sudden they do something else. It really just makes me ill watching all this stuff go on because none of these kids are learning how to pitch. None of the catchers are learning how to call a game. Nobody's learning the game of baseball. But most importantly, like you asked about the injuries, it's because everything is done with max effort.
Right.
And you can't do that and stay healthy. That's one of the biggest things they said about, Darren Erstad when I played with him in the Angels. Probably supposed to be one of the greatest players of all time. But because he only had 1 year, he didn't last very long.
Right.
Mike Trout, same thing. This guy, one of the greatest players ever to play, cannot stay injury-free because he doesn't know a different gear. And I think that's some of the situation is all these injuries are occurring because everything these guys are doing, swinging at max effort, throwing at max effort, it's just too much for their bodies.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. That's something that a lot of former players are voicing is that they're focusing a lot on these like analytics, right? They're focusing on things that they shouldn't be focusing on. It's almost like they're forgetting the fundamentals and the basics of the game. That they're putting their focus and loading up all the information in the players' heads that they don't necessarily need, And these players they're throwing every pitch, right? Like with max effort, like you said, and it's blowing out their arms. So, these guys that are constantly throwing 100, 103 miles per hour, it's like, I don't know if that's a good thing because I'm like, that sounds like a disaster.
Yeah, I kind of compare what baseball has gone is kind of what our country has done. We've gotten to a point where sabermetric has become the far left.
Yeah.
And the eyes and watching the game have become the far right. And somehow we got to find a happy median in the middle.
Right.
I think sabermetrics is a useful tool. I think watching the game is an important tool. So somehow we've got to get back to that middle ground to where we can all kind of work together, because I think you've seen it over the last few years. A guy like Bruce Bochy, he is not a sabermetric manager, and yet he uses the sabermetrics as a tool, but he's also watching the game and he sees that, okay, I'm going to leave this guy in an extra inning because he's doing this, he's doing that. I think that's what the baseball has to get back to, is that middle ground of usefulness of sabermetrics, usefulness of watching the game, and putting those two together.
Absolutely. Yeah. I just, again, as a fan just watching the game, I just hate too much of this analytical stuff. And I mean, there's a time, analytics is here to stay. It's not going anywhere, but I feel like they just need to use the information that needs to be used instead of just trying to put too much on the players' plates, because then they start to overthink and they can't think for themselves, like you said. And it's absolutely frustrating.
Biggest thing we say in golf, the biggest thing we say trying to hit a baseball is, if you're thinking, you're not going to hit. You need to let your natural abilities take over.
Mm-hmm.
Like in golf, once you approach the ball, you quit thinking and you just let your natural ability take over. When you get in the batter's box, you let your natural ability, all the thinking that you did before, see the ball, hit the ball. That's it.
Yeah.
You step on the mound as a pitcher, see the catcher's mitt, throw it to the mitt. Make it simple once you engage to be ready to do the action that you're supposed to do.
No doubt. No, I love it. I mean, that's the baseball that I know, that I grew up watching. Right. So, yeah, there's been a lot of changes, and let me get to one of the other questions here. So, this is from Sunil. So he's saying, he's asking Mr. Leyritz, were those high sliders pitches you have respectively thrown to you in batting practice? Like I think he's asking, were those high sliders the high ones?
I think he might have been one of our BP pitchers that were throwing those high sliders. He wants some credit.
There you go, Sunil. You got your answer. And then shout out to my guy Uncle Tats from the Pinstripe Chronicles podcast. Thank you so much for the super chat, man. He's asking, looking at the current team, how does it compare to the late '90s, to the teams of the late '90s?
Listen, I've been down to the game in San Diego on Saturday.
Yeah,
I went to the game last night in Anaheim. I'm going to probably go tonight.
Sweet.
And what I love, and I was sitting with my older son who played minor league ball, and we were talking about the difference, because honestly, I haven't been able to watch the Yankees in the last 5 years. 20 strikeouts a game, 17 strikeouts a game. It was pathetic to watch this team hit. And with the addition of Volpe, and again, he came up last year striking out way too much too. And the adjustment that he's made to make him into the ball player, the hitter that he is now, Soto is somebody that I am enjoying watching on an everyday basis, because I'm in New York for all the home games. So I get to see him every home game. And I think that just wears off on the other players. Verdugo, I think, is a great addition. And this team has become more of a put the ball in play, hit the ball. And I think that's what they had been missing. And I think it's actually fun to watch them play again. And you got to remember, they're doing all this without their ace pitcher, Garrett Cole. So if they can wait long enough to get Cole back 100% healthy, that second half, dude, this team could just go on a run like they did in '98. And I'm excited to watch them play this year. It's been fun. And I am the first one to tell you that I couldn't watch the last few years.
It was hard for me too. Look, folks in the chat are probably going to think I'm not a real fan or whatever, but that's fine. There was a couple of years where I could not watch them play. I just couldn't. It was frustrating. It was absolutely frustrating. And
Stop rooting for him.
Yeah, I hope I'm rooting for them.
The Yankees, but I just couldn't watch the product they were putting.
Yep. And shout out to Empire State of Baseball, Rich Rivera. What is going on? Make sure you guys subscribe to my guy, Rich. We got Jim Leyritz on the show. So, again, greatly appreciate you coming on, man. As far as you as an athlete, right? And I've talked to a few other players, and you all are constantly traveling. There's like never a break. It's just, even after the season's over, you only get a month off, and then it's back to the grind, right?
Well, yeah, unfortunately, with those late '90s teams with the Yankees, we played till the end of October, so you had November and December, have off, and then January you started up again, and by February you had to report to camp.
Yeah, and I mean for you, because at the end of the day, I mean, athletes, right? They're also humans too. They also have families. You're not able to spend a lot of time with your family members. Unfortunately, you miss out on a lot of events because you're traveling with the team. You're trying to help the team win. You're working, right? I mean, what was that like for you, man? To be away on a lot of those things and miss out on a lot of things. I mean,
But one of the reasons a lot of my teammates didn't like me because I played with Don Mattingly and Wade Boggs. And when I was up there, when I got called up, their kids were about 13, 14, 15 years old. And they were the first ones to tell me how much they missed out on. And I had my kids in 94 to 96. And I said to my wife, I'm going to hire you a nanny. I'm going to hire you a housekeeper. And they're going to travel with us. And I want my kids on every road trip. I want to see their first steps. I want to hear their first words. And even though it might be uncomfortable, I give my ex-wife credit. She got on the plane, and my kids were with us.
Yeah.
And so I didn't miss those things as much, but it also kind of ticked off the other players because they didn't have the freedom on the road that they normally would have because my wife and kids were pretty much on every trip.
Oh, okay. Awesome. I've talked to some other athletes before, former athletes, and they said that they had to be away from their family, their kids. It's like they had to miss out on a lot of events. So that's cool that you had your kids with you the whole time, and and kudos to your ex-wife for
my middle son.
Yeah.
By the way, that's the only credit I give my ex-wife.
We're going to delete that comment.
In all honesty, that was one of the things. My middle son, who was born one day before the season ended in '96, was probably the youngest kid ever to be at a World Series game in New York when we started off against the Braves. My wife brought him in his carrier into the wives' suite, and he was there for the first two games of the '96 World Series at about 15 days old.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. That is amazing. Wow. Okay. No, that's awesome. And you gave the chat a good laugh over here. So kudos to you. Oh. I think we're having some technical difficulties again. I can't hear you, man. Oh man, we're all right. Well, hopefully you guys got a good laugh out of that one. That was pretty hilarious. But yeah, I wanted to ask that question to Jim Leyritz about being away from family and kids, because a couple of the athletes that I interviewed that I've talked to in the past, especially in the last couple of days, they were away from their families and kids, and they missed out on a lot of events. And it sounds like he didn't. So Jim, we're good.
Back again.
I gotta.
Hey, Bobby Gritch. I'm on my phone. That's why I did that.
That could be it.
And that was Bobby Gritch of all people.
Oh, you went out. You might have to reset it again. Yeah, I can't hear you. Yeah, he's on his phone, so it happens. It happens. But yeah, folks, hopefully you all are enjoying the conversation that we're having. I appreciate everybody's questions. I'm trying to get to everybody's questions as best as possible. So, it's a fun conversation. Let's try this one more time. Jimmy, are we good?
You know what it is? I was just saying, Bobby Grich was trying to call me. And then once he called me, I came back on. Then he sent me a text message and it kicked me off again.
Oh, tell me something, text me, man. You tell me you're busy.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Obviously you played on several different teams, right? You played for the Yankees, you played for the Angels, the Texas Rangers, the Boston Red Sox, the Padres, the Dodgers. Man, you've been all over. You've been all over. Like, what was the experience like? Was the Yankees your favorite team to play with or play for? Like, talk to us about that.
Yeah, my whole journey was crazy. There were some trades I was happy about, some trades I was disappointed. One of the trades I'll tell you about in a minute was one I was used as a pawn to make sure somebody else signed. And once I got traded to that team, he signed. But in 1996, when we win the World Series, I went into Mr. Steinbrenner and I said, if I don't have an opportunity to play every day next year, you give me a chance to find a team that will let me play. And that's when the Anaheim Angels came. And I got traded after 96 to the 97 Angels. Unfortunately, with the Angels, we had a couple injuries to our starting pitching. And they had a young catcher named Todd Green who played for the Yankees also.
Yep.
But he was their up-and-coming catcher. And when Chuck Finley and Mark Langston got hurt, they needed a number one starter. They traded me to the Texas Rangers for Kenny Hill because the Texas Rangers were getting ready to trade Pudge Rodriguez, all right, because Pudge wouldn't sign his free agent contract.
Yeah.
So when the Rangers traded for me from the Angels on July 30th, Pudge found out that he was going to be traded from the Rangers. He went in and spoke to the owner and said, screw the agent. I want to do this deal. Let's get it done. I don't want to leave Texas. The second part of that trade that was in place was Pudge Rodriguez to the New York Yankees in 1997 for Stanley Jansen, who was one of the pitchers. All right.
Oh. Nah, you went out, came back. Yeah, we got some mic issues again. Sorry, folks. Oh my God. All right. No, all good. I'm still enjoying the conversations, even with all the technical difficulties. So appreciate you all being patient with this while we're getting this all figured out. So hopefully you're all enjoying the conversation. Let's try this one more time.
I'll never do this on my phone again. I promise.
Yeah, no, it's all good. We'll have you back on. Hopefully.
So anyway, Pudge Rodriguez finds out I'm traded to the Rangers. And when I got traded, I was really pissed off. I called Tim Meade and said, what the hell's going on? I came here for a 3-year contract. Why are they trading me? He said, Jimmy, relax. You're going there to be the starting catcher because Pudge is being traded to the Yankees for Jansen and Jorge Posada.
Oh,
So when Pudge found that, he went in, signed. That deal never happened. And can you imagine? So I tell Yankee fans all the time, yeah, my home was great, but I actually kept Posada as a Yankee. You really ought to thank me for those late 90s again, because he would have never been a Yankee and you would have had Pudge, which might have worked out. But Pudge went in for 5 years, signed, and became a legend in Texas. And I ended up asking the Rangers to trade me that offseason. Started off with the Red Sox. Didn't get along with Joe Kerrigan, the pitching coach. They traded me to the Padres. We go to the World Series. We lose to the Yankees in the World Series.
Yep.
But because we went on that run, the city of San Diego got behind the vote for the new stadium, which is now Petco Park.
Right.
So the Padres bring us back every 10 years to the 98 team to celebrate that we were the team that got that 98, that ballpark passed. And then they traded everybody. And I was left there to work with the young pitching staff. and promised that in July I would be traded. And sure enough, in July, Kevin Towers calls me and says, hey, we're trading you back to the Red Sox on July 29th. And I said, no, Kevin, I don't want to go back there. Can you give me 24 hours? He said, Jimmy, I got to get somebody for you. I can't let you just go. So I called up George Steinbrenner's secretary, Debbie Nicolosi. And I said, Debbie, tell George that they're trading me to the Red Sox. And George, without telling Cashman and without telling Torres, went and traded for me. And I was a New York Yankee the next day.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, you're both of your World Series came 96 and 99. So I'm like, all right, well, this works out for Jim. So, absolutely, man. No, that's great. But how did it feel? I mean, being on that 98 Padres, because you all had a great team. You all had some great players. There was Tony Gwynn, Greg Vaughn, Ken Caminetti. I mean, you all had a great team that year.
Once we beat the Braves, we thought we had a great chance to beat the Yankees. Because the Braves had 3 Hall of Famers in the pitching staff.
Yeah.
And we were able to overcome that. And we beat them in pretty good fashion. And when we got to Yankee Stadium, listen, that Yankee team was very intimidating. They were on such a roll that year. And when Tino Martinez was not called out on strike 3 on that slider from Mark Langston, and then he hit the next pitch for the grand slam.
Yep.
Everything in our locker room, in the Padres locker room, was like, these guys are destined to win this. And then, of course, Andy Ashby comes out in game 2 and is got food poisoning, doesn't feel good, and he showed it. And they kill us in game 2. We get to San Diego. We think, okay, we're back home. Things will change. And then Trevor gives up the home run to Brocious. And and we just knew that this wasn't our year. It was the Yankees' year. And to a point where when the Yankees won, Mr. Steinbrenner grabs me in the hallway and says, hey, are you the king of San Diego like you were the king of New York? And I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, we just won the World Series. We don't know where to go to. Where can these guys celebrate? And I called up Junior Seau. And I said, Can you keep your restaurant open? I'm going to bring some of the Yankee guys down. And I took around 6 or 8 of the guys down to Junior Seau's restaurant. We celebrated down there. And the Padre fans weren't too happy that I was celebrating with the Yankees. But these were my guys. These are the guys I was just with.
Yeah.
And, I had a few drinks, drowning my sorrows for losing, but also hanging out with my buddies who had just won.
No doubt, man. That's awesome. I want to, yeah. Well, it's cool that you still got to party with him, even though you're on the wrong team, but that's okay. It happens. But I want to get to a couple more questions here. So one here is from Juan Beret. He's asking, he wants me to ask you how you developed your batting stance. And it was his favorite stance to imitate as a kid and was different from other players, which it definitely was. Your batting stance was definitely stood out. And it was creative, I would say. It was definitely a lot different. So
what that was in 1982 when I broke my foot, and it was just a fracture. When those Brave Scouts came and talked to my dad, they said, we're going to come back and watch him in 5 weeks. I wanted to make sure that I'd be ready when they came back to watch me and be 100%. So instead of taking the 2 or 3 weeks off that I would have to take for that leg to heal, I had my doctor put a cast on that left leg. And so I continued to take batting practice every day, but I couldn't put a lot of pressure on that front foot. So I was hitting with a stiff front leg. And what happened was, all of a sudden, because I used to hit like Pete Rose, and I was in a little crouch, and I hit line drives. I didn't hit for power. And all of a sudden, with that stiff leg, I could hit off my back leg for a lot more power. I decided once that cast came off, I was going to stay with that stance. And all of a sudden, I was hitting home runs. I was hitting the ball out of the park instead of just line drives. And I stayed with that stance all the way through. And that's how it developed. So it was funny because when I first started teaching lessons to kids, the parents would say, can you teach him to hit like you did? I said, well, we have to break his left leg first.
Yeah. That's a lawsuit and then some. So I don't think you want that on your hands.
But that's how that developed.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. I you know what? I actually did not know that. So, but I always thought it was an interesting stance, and I'm like, that's different.
So the one year that I didn't hit 300 in the minor leagues was the year that Darren Johnson was the batting coach in AA in 1988, and he tried to change my stance to hit like Eric Davis. And I tried it because he was my coach, and I hit 250, and I was like, "That's it. I'm never doing that again." And then I went back to the way I used to hit, and then I led the league the next year, and I won the batting title. And I said, "I'm never changing again."
Yeah, I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know, that's the way I see it. And then I have somebody here asking you a question here, Jim. He wants to ask you what it was like first time walking onto the field for a Major League Baseball game when you knew you made it.
Well, I had two firsts. The first time getting called up in Baltimore, not Yankee Stadium. In Baltimore, I got called up, and I got thrown into the first game in the 8th inning as a pinch hitter against Greg Olson, who was the #1 closer for the Orioles at the time in 1990. And I had never seen him, never faced him, never knew anything about him. And the first pitch he threw me was a 58-foot curveball that I swung at before it even got to the plate. I wound up battling to 2-2 and got a base hit to tie the game up in the top of the 9th. And then in the bottom of the 9th, they loaded the bases. They hit a ground ball to me at third. Instead of stepping on the bag and throwing to first for a double play, I tried to throw home to Matt Noakes. I one-hopped him. He missed it, and we lost the game. That was my first debut in Baltimore. But my first debut at Yankee Stadium was a pinch hit at bat off Roger Clemens. And it was probably my biggest thrill ever to hear Bob Shepard say my name. You know, now batting number 12 at the time, because I was number 12 then.
Yeah.
Third baseman Jim Leyritz, number 12, you know. And then I got the base hit off Roger Clemens and was able to get that ball too. That was my two of my biggest thrills for my first games in the big leagues.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's little things like that you remember. You know, it's small details like that you remember. You know, the first time you stepped onto the field, the first swing you took, the first throw you made, the first pitch you took or you received as a catcher. I mean, you probably remember like the minute it happened, the hour, like the date. I'm sure.
My first visit to Yankee Stadium, I had an agent that was a New York agent, and he grew up in the city. And he said, "Jimmy, stay in the city. When you come back from Baltimore, I want you staying in the city. I want you taking the 4 train to the stadium. And he goes, I want you walking in the back entrance, and I want you to take it all in." And I didn't know what he meant because I had never been, you know, to Yankee Stadium in that capacity.
Mm-hmm.
So I took the 4 train, got off, walked in the back entrance, and in the old stadium, when you walked in the back entrance, the first thing you walk into is Monument Park. And that was my first time. I walked in there. I see Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig. I take that all in. I'm excited as heck. I go on. I stand on the mound. I look around. I walk in. I give my dad a call. First of all, I see my locker next to Don Mattingly, which thrilled me because he was the guy at the time.
Yeah.
I walked in. I picked up the clubhouse phone. I called my dad. I said, "Dad, I can't believe it. I'm at Yankee Stadium. I've made it." I said, "My locker's next to Don Mattingly." And he goes, "Son, what are you going to do to stay there?" It wasn't congratulations. It wasn't. My dad was always about what's the next goal? What's your next? Because you've achieved something, but you haven't achieved that ultimate goal. And he was proud of me, but he never let me know at this point. And he said, "What's your next goal?" And sure enough, I go back and I sit at my seat, and Don Mattingly comes walking in, and he goes, "How you doing, kid? I guess you're next to me." I said, "Yeah, Cap." I said, "I'm here." And he said, "Just remember one thing. If you don't ask questions, you won't last very long." And he goes, "Anything you need to know, I'm here." And to me, dude, that was the biggest piece of advice I was given, that I was in Donnie's. I spent the first 5 years with Donnie, He became my favorite teammate, my favorite person of anybody that I ever played with, just because he treated me and he taught me the importance of being part of a team. Even though I was a kind of an I kind of guy, he taught me the importance of, I don't care how good you are, if the team doesn't win, you're not going to get all the personal achievements that you could get, because you're not winning. And Donnie was all about winning baseball. When he was hurt, dude, he was out there helping me at first base because I was taking his job, but yet he was out there helping me. And that just really rubbed off on me as the ultimate team kind of guy. And if you talk to players who are playing for him now with the Blue Jays, with the Marlins, they will tell you the same thing. I've never played for anybody who was so down to earth that cared about me, not only as being a good player, but being a good person. That was Don Mattingly.
I've always heard nothing but great things about Don Mattingly. I can't say I've ever heard a single bad thing about him. I remember watching him play when I was a lot younger, and it was great to see him play. He was always talked about by folks that have been following the Yankees for a really long time. It sounds like he was probably your favorite teammate. Is that safe to say?
First question anybody asks, who's your favorite teammate? I go Don Mattingly. No,
Don Mattingly, yeah.
Not even a hesitation. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought, because I'm like, I was like, I think that's Jim's favorite teammate right there is Don Mattingly. Sounds like he's been there for you since day one.
I mean, it was two other guys that I give a lot of credit in the very beginning, as a young kid when they got called up with Dave LaPointe and Steve Sachs. They were also two guys that really, really took me under their wing in 91 and kind of said, "Hey, kid, I know you're ready to play. I know you want this, but there's kind of there's a time period that you have to go through. Be patient, but don't lose that. Don't lose that energy. Don't lose that grit. But pull back that ego a little bit, and it really did help."
Yeah, no doubt, man. One of the things that you talked about was teams trading, right? Do they normally tell you that you're getting traded, or because this was a question that was asked, because it says, do teams normally tell you when they plan on trading you, or they?
So, like I said, 96, I asked for the trade.
Yeah.
In 97, I was blindsided because I thought I was going to be an Angel for 3 years and help build there. And then 90, from the Rangers to the Red Sox, I asked for the trade. From the Red Sox to the Padres, I asked for the trade. From the Padres back to the Yankees, I asked for the trade.
Wow, okay.
The one that really, really shocked me was when I came back in 2000 and I didn't sign a 2-year deal that George was going to give me because I was going to become the full-time DH because Strawberry got suspended. And I thought instead of signing for $1 million that if I was the full-time DH in 2000, I would make 10 times more money in 2001. And then in 2000, in spring training, Tom Pagnozzi gets hurt 2 weeks before spring training ends. And all of a sudden, I'm the backup catcher again. And I'm not allowed to DH because we can't put it, we would lose the DH if Posada got hurt. And so I couldn't DH, so I lost on being the full-time DH. And as the season progressed, was upset that I wasn't playing more. And then, of course, Knobloch couldn't throw the ball to first base. So I get traded for Jose Vizcaino, and I go to the Dodgers. That trade, I found out that trade in a bar in Boston called Daisy Buchanan's that we all hung out at. I was with my wife. I was with Shane Spencer and his wife, David Cohn and his wife, and we were all hanging out drinking. And we went up to the bar, and as we're getting our drinks, Coney looks at the TV and goes, "Hey, dude, you just got traded to the Dodgers." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Look." And sure enough, on the ticker tape on ESPN, on the TV, Jim Leyritz traded from the Yankees to the Dodgers for Jose Vizcaino. That was about midnight.
Oh,
we left the bar about 2 a.m. I get back to the hotel, and sure enough, "Hey, call Brian Cashman," was on my message. I called Cash. He said, "Yeah, unfortunately, Jimmy, we traded you to the Dodgers for Jose Vizcaino, and we'll have your plane ticket ready for you for tomorrow.
Oh man, wow, that's wild, man. That's crazy.
So then I got hurt with the Dodgers,
Yeah.
and when I was able to come back in 2003, I got $1 million contract offered to me by the Padres. But at that time, my ex-wife had major drug issues. I had just taken custody of my 3 boys, and they were 2, 7, and 9. And the judge in Florida told me, if you go back to play, Mr. Leyritz, even though you need the money, that you will lose custody of those 3 boys. I called up Kevin Towers the next day and said, Kevin, I appreciate the offer. It would really help me financially, but it would put my kids in jeopardy. I'm going to retire from the game of baseball and take care of my kids. And that's what I did.
And I can't fault you for that, man. Sometimes, money, obviously money's good, right? We all like money, and I'm sure the money that y'all were making as athletes is great. But when it comes to kids, especially when it comes to kids and family, man, that to me, I feel like that's a priority over a lot of things, so.
Like I mentioned before, listen, I made a lot of bad choices with my ex-wife. I made a bad choice, the night of my accident, drinking and driving.
Yeah.
A lot of different things that happened with me over the years, made some pretty bad choices, but I was offered a second chance. And that second chance started by taking custody of my children. And it's the best choice one of the best choices I've ever made to this day.
Yeah.
Besides the choice of my now wife, who I'm with, because I read a book called The Purpose-Driven Life, and it changed my life forever in 2008. And I met her in 2009. And like I said, the choices that we made, yes, we made mistakes.
Sure.
But I think where we are at now in our lives, a lot of the lessons I learned through those mistakes, I'm so blessed to be at where we're at now, to be part of the Yankee system, to be part of the Yankee family, to be part of the moments that you and I have just talked about for the last time. It's such a blessing, such an opportunity. And I just can't, like I said, I can't thank the good Lord good enough to have blessed my life for now, between now and ever since after that accident and after that trial, that my life has been blessed beyond what I could have ever imagined a home run in a World Series would do for you. The life that I have now could not be any better.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jim, I know you went through a lot of those personal struggles with the DUIs, and
one of the things we talk about is you can be falsely accused by anybody. It's whether or not you have the guts to fight it. And right. In my domestic violence case with my ex-wife, she almost went to jail finally because I would not take that I was responsible for any of that. Mm-hmm. She almost went to jail after all the truth came out. In my accident, when the truth finally came out in court, the other driver was at fault. I should have never been drinking and driving, but I would not take a plea. I would not take less than what I was guilty of that night. And man, I'm telling you, my faith was tested, but the good Lord and the Purpose-Driven Life and Rick Warren gave me the strength to see it. My now wife stayed with me through that trial because she had read all the evidence. She knew that once I went to court, that I would be found not guilty. And man, once that was over, I thank God that I did not take the easy way out. And it's hurt me a little bit because people don't always know the truth of what really happened.
Yeah.
But true. I say this, you know what? Proof is in the package. And what I do now, what I've been doing since 2010, after that verdict, and the life that I lead now is proof that, you know what, when you live your truth, when you fight for justice, that it can all work out in the end. And unfortunately, there was a life lost that night, and we have to respect that. It's one of the only things that I would ever change in my life, that if I could change, would be that woman passing away, because that was tragic. It was terrible. But I would not be the man I am today had I not gone through those things. And I'm pretty proud of the person that I've turned out to be. And my wife and I, we have the 5 kids out here in California They've all grown up. They're all out of the house doing their thing. And I'm just very proud of the life that we've developed together. And like I said, just very proud still that the Yankees allow me to come back, do my thing at Yankee Stadium, and be part of the family. And of course, really be excited for this team in 2024 because I think they have this opportunity, and I think it's going to be an exciting year for the New York Yankees.
Yeah, I'm confident. I'm excited for this New York Yankees team. Jim, like I said, despite all those trials and tribulations that you went through, the struggles that you went through during that time, I'm glad you survived it all. I mean, it speaks to who you are, and I'm glad we're having this conversation today, and I get to speak to a former player such as yourself, because again, I never would have thought in a million years that I'd be here talking with Jim Leyritz, and here we are. You never know where life is going to take you, and you just have to find your passion and find your purpose, right? So you taught that to us today, that sometimes things happen, you're tested. It's all about how you overcome those tests. It sounds like you overcame a lot of things in your personal life, and it sounds like you're in a really good spot now, and you're doing a lot better. So
no, thank you. No, I appreciate that. Like I said, it's once I put God first,
yeah,
my life changed forever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I said, I'm just very fortunate to have a partner like my wife that is in God with me. And we wake up every morning, and the first thing we do is we get in separate rooms, and we take our 20 minutes to do our Bible study and to thank God and to put on that armor to go out and face the day, because we know what we're going to face. And like I said, I'm so blessed to be able, like I said, play for the New York Yankees, to win the championships that I did, to achieve every personal goal that I had as a young kid. But some of the bad choices that I made, to be able to overcome those and to be where I'm at now in life, and to be able to help others, to inspire others, and to make sure others know that no matter what,
lost you again. It went off screen. Oh man, this is awesome. Hold on, let me just take him out for now. Do we got him? No. Yeah, pretty inspiring though, folks. I mean, it's very inspiring. Here we go. We got you.
I was just about to hit the biggest note of all.
Go ahead, hit that note, man. Hit that note.
Anyway, like I said, just to be able to overcome some bad choices and some of those decisions early on that I had in my life, to be able to be family focused, God focused, where I'm at now in my life. I'm just blessed, beyond blessed. And like I said, I'm here in California, in Dana Point, with my wife, with our 5 kids together. And I'm able to be able to come back to New York, do some work for the Yankees, and just obviously be part of what I think is maybe going to be a pretty magical season for the Yankees this year, as a Yankee fan, and see what happens. And like I said, just to be able to, I wrote the book Catching Heat, and it chronicled everything about, overcoming the odds, making it to the big leagues, hitting the big home runs, but also overcoming the obstacles of some bad choices that I made with, marriages and other things that had happened along the way, but overcome those with truth and integrity, and to be able to be where I'm at today, in a pretty good place. And I do a lot of public speaking. I do a lot of college speaking, talking to kids about, the dangers of drinking and driving, the dangers of not, of just everything in life about choices. And again, very blessed to be where I'm at today.
Yeah, very happy to hear that. Like I said, it's amazing, man. I just love hearing these types of stories of people overcoming whatever it is that they were going through, whatever it is that they did go through. It's just amazing, man. So it could happen. It could happen to anybody, right? And again, to overcome all of that, because I've known people in my personal life that have overcome a lot of struggles, or some sort of like, unfortunately, addictions.
Yeah.
But they were able to kick those addictions away, and they're leading a much better life. Like, it's so great to see that.
Well, one of the things that Mr. Steinbrenner instilled in everybody, my father instilled it in me, my mom instilled it in me, but Mr. Steinbrenner even instilled it was, you were given a gift to be able to play the game of baseball. I was given a gift to play for the New York Yankees and George Steinbrenner. I was given a gift to be able to win those World Series and do all that stuff that we did. But giving the gift of having God first in my life in 2008 is the best gift that I was ever given. And it just solidified of some of, like I said, the bad choices that sometimes we make, that you can overcome them if you put God first. And again, I don't mean to sound like a Bible thumper. I'm not. But I'm the first one to say I still make mistakes. I still make some, I don't make as bad of choices as I used to make because I put God first.
Sure.
But it's one of those things that I just try to show people that sometimes when you're humbled in life and you accept the humbleness that happens to you and you take responsibility for that, things can change. And like you mentioned, addictions, whatever it might be, you can overcome those obstacles. And what we've seen happen with, Scotty Scheffler, what we've seen happen with Grayson Murray, what we're seeing happen with Donald Trump, all these different things that we see, fight for the truth, live the truth, take responsibility, but also don't try to take the easy way out. And if you don't have God in your life, somehow find that higher power that you need to be overcome, because none of us, I don't think, are strong enough by themselves to be overcome everything that's thrown at us in our lives. We have to rely on a higher power. And I'm just blessed and grateful that mine was God.
I'm glad, man. Good. Yeah. No, like I said, it sounds like life has been treating you well, and you're in the right direction, it looks like. And I hope good things continue coming your way there, Jim. Again, I appreciate you coming on, man, and talking to all of us. And the name of your book, real quick, it was called Catching Heat.
Catching Heat, yeah.
And it's sold. They could buy.
Go to my website, which is www.jimleyritz.com.
Okay, I'm just typing in the chat for you, so if you're interested. So jimleyritz.com.
Jimleyritz.com is my website.
Okay.
And of course, you have my Twitter feed, which is the real J Leyritz.
Yep.
The Instagram. You can see all the things that I'm out there doing charity-wise and event-wise and at Yankee Stadium and just family-wise. Everything that I try to post, I don't try to post anything political, anything controversial. I try to post the positive things that are going on that we can do, that we can help others. And again, inspired by George Steinbrenner to be able to give back for all of the blessings that we've received because of what God gave us as far as the talents go, to play baseball, to be part of all that history, and to be able to give back to the people that were part of that.
Absolutely, man. No, that's great, man. That's great. Jim, again, thank you so much for coming on, taking the time to talk to us and answering all the questions and being very open about everything. Just not beating around the bush. You're open and honest about everything that you said. Thanks for all you did for baseball, for winning those World Series with the Yankees. Those are things that I remember about you. So and just being the awesome athlete that you were, and just being an awesome person. So
I share just a quick story with you that happened to me last night, which
please
is one of the things that kind of puts in perspective my life now.
Yeah.
So last night we were in the Diamond Club Lounge in Anaheim at the stadium. And I had my older son with me, who was part of all this baseball stuff and actually played. And we were standing in line for the bathroom, and this one kid couldn't have been more than 27, 30 years old. Actually, he was probably 35 years old. He sees me standing in line in front of him. And he goes, "Oh my God, it's Jim Leyritz," and he has a jersey on. And my son says to him, "Oh, you like the Yankees?" He goes, but you're too young to know my dad. He goes, no. He goes, I'm a huge Jim Leyritz. I love all the home runs and everything that you hit. But most of all, you served at Saddleback Church with my dad on the usher team. And he goes, the stories that you told about your testimony, to the men's group, I was there and it inspired me. I was 10 years old. He said it inspired me to hear that was like the ultimate. And for my son to hear that, and he said to me on the car drive home, Dad, wow, you really do inspire people outside of just being a baseball player. And I said, yeah, Austin, that's because of my faith. And I said, a lot of people struggle with faith. And that's part of when him and I play golf together. The first thing I do with people is I share the purpose-driven life is part of my life. And he's like, why do you do that all the time? And I said, that's why right there, you see a young kid like that inspired by God, not only because I was a baseball player, but because of my faith. You can change a lot of people's lives that way also.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, a lot of people have different beliefs. So, but you have to believe in, I feel like you got to believe in something. You have to believe that God is out there. God is definitely out there. So,
or a higher power, just a higher power.
Mm-hmm.
Something other than yourself that you need to be able to rely on to give you strength, because we're all not strong enough on our own.
Yeah, and just one more question I wanted to get to real quick. I don't know how you're doing on time. I just want to be respectful of your time.
Nope. And listen, I was late to begin with.
Yeah, no, it's all good, man. It's all good. But no, I appreciate you jamming out with us here. So, Ken over here was asking, you charitable work for the ALS Foundation. What inspired you to work with them?
So first of all, playing for the Yankees with the Lou Gehrig's disease, as a Yankee, Mr. Steinbrenner had us go to all the dinners, all the ALS functions that were during the Yankee times. But really, and I got to know a guy named Chris Pendergrass, and he was basically the New York chapter poster guy for ALS. He had ALS, lived with it for about 26 years. I'm really good friends with his wife, Christine, to this day. I was honored last year at their banquet. But in 2010, I was personally hit by ALS as my brother-in-law was diagnosed with ALS and passed away 2 years later. He was diagnosed in 2008, but then passed away in 2010 from Lou Gehrig's disease. So that became a personal, plight for me to support that even more on top of my friendship with Chris Pendergrass. And Chris passed away about 2 years ago. But yeah, that was one of the reasons why I was inspired to get behind that one. And then, of course, the 9/11 charities, Cantor Fitzgerald, and the 9/11 Education Trust Board that I've been on to make sure that no one forgets in the school systems, middle schools, high schools, elementary schools, that they don't forget what happened on 9/11. We provide the education for that through the 9/11 Education Trust. Those are my two big ones. And of course, I have just recently gotten involved with the Tunnel for Towers after finding out what a great organization that they have, and start to become more a part of that organization also.
Yeah, no, that's amazing, man. That's awesome stuff. So you never really wanted to get involved in any of like the coaching or managerial jobs in Major League Baseball? Probably not something of your interest. I don't know.
When I first retired, and after I went through the accident and after I went through the trial, I didn't know what I wanted to do, to be honest with you. I just knew that I could not go back to New York. I couldn't stay in Florida because my kids would have been dragged through all of the stuff. And when I met my now wife, she said to me, come to California, get away from everything. Let's raise these children together. And once we have these kids stable, once we have them able to be able to live a normal life, then you can go back to New York and get your life back. And that's the only reason why I am back for the last 2 years in New York doing things, showing my face again, because the kids are all raised. They're all living a pretty good life. And I now have the opportunity to do that. I would not sacrifice their mental health, because if I went back to New York, if I stayed in Florida, it would always been, oh, you're.
Oh, sound went away again. Sorry, man. You might have to reset it again. All good, all good. Folks, let me know if you're enjoying the chat. Hopefully you're enjoying this interview. It's been, here we are coming up on 2 hours. I'm having a lot of fun, so hopefully you guys are enjoying it as well. Again, former Major League Baseball player Jim Leyritz, just telling his stories as an athlete, how he came up, telling his personal life. Here we go. I got you. Hold on. I got you.
Okay. Yes. So anyway, from where I left off was, we brought the kids. I brought the kids out to California. Her and I lived separately for 2 years. She had 2 young girls. They got to know each other. We became a Brady Bunch in 2013, and we've raised them since. Just like I said, just recently, the girls are old enough to be in college, and I was able to start getting back to New York. I do title insurance for a living, commercial and residential real estate. So I have clients in New York, clients in California, and now I'm able to come back and start doing some Yankee work and be part of that again, and just be in such a really good place to be able to share now the whole story of what really happened and what we really went through without having to drag my children through all that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. Maybe one day they'll invite you to the Yes booth and you could start commentating with Paul O'Neill and Michael Kay.
Well, and that's really what I wanted to do. I mean, before the accident, I was getting ready to sign $1 million deal to do the Fox Game of the Week when Tim McCarver was retiring.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had just got done with ESPN and MLB.com and Fox covering the 2007 World Series playoffs. And we followed the Red Sox, and I was doing the pre and post game with Chris Myers and Harold Reynolds. And from 2004 to 2007 was putting up a pretty good TV career. I was hoping that maybe that's going to come back, and I'm still hoping that might have an opportunity, because I thought I was pretty good on the TV and the radio, because I was a little opinionated, which you don't get a lot. But I was also one of those guys that wasn't afraid to call a spade.
Sure.
And honestly, just to really be able to give people what they weren't seeing, what they didn't just see play by play, to be able to do some color commentary. I still hope that might have a day to come back soon. Yeah, I'm only 60.
Yeah, 60. You're young. You're young.
John Sterling just retired at 84. So.
Hey, yeah, I was gonna say you're young, man. Yeah, no, you got time. You got time. Everything will fall into place. You'll start, be a commentator. The one question I did want to ask you, because something that we talked about earlier in the conversation, we're kind of going back a little bit to like the game, right? Baseball is just like the game. I mean, we talked about the major differences now with like how the game was played in the past compared to how the game is being played now with the analytics. Like, what do you think of all these like rule changes, the analytics, like the ghost runner, the pitch clock? Like, what are your thoughts on all these things?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I don't know why. I mean, I kind of get it. The shot clock is in basketball.
Yeah.
It's all the other sports are played with the clock. But it's one of those things that if you were to tell a person you're going to go to a game of football and you're going to watch it for 3 hours, and people are okay with that, and because there is a clock there are breaks, there are times, with the 20-second and 15-second clock, I think it's a little too fast. I think there should be maybe a 30-second clock, and that would speed up the game, but it also would give a little bit more time, in between. for people to watch the game. People don't even go up to the concession stand anymore because, like I said last night, just my trip to the bathroom cost me 1 inning.
Yeah.
So it's those are the things that I kind of think that they have to, as the years go on, maybe make some adjustments. I understand from the younger viewer perspective, they want the game because the attention span of the Gen X and everybody else is a little bit shorter than what we're used to. But the game of baseball is still the beauty of it is it's 9 innings and anything can happen. I wish the extra inning rule would go to the 11th and give them at least the bottom of the 10th inning.
Sure.
That one extra inning. And then after the 10th inning doesn't make a difference, then we do it in the 11th. I think that would make it more baseball-like. And then, of course, like I said, the big rule that I think is screwing up baseball more than anything, and I am truly surprised that the umpires union hasn't started speaking up on this, is when I was a catcher in the big leagues, if I was catching a ball and I moved my glove at all, the umpire behind me said, Jimmy, if you do that again, we're going to call it a ball, whether it's a strike or not. If you move your glove, you're trying to show me up. And all of a sudden in today's game, it's an art form, and they're being rated on how many pitches they steal. How is that fair to the umpires? Because it is a difficult job. It is hard to see. And like I said, when I was catching, you had to frame the pitch. You couldn't move it, but you could frame it. And to see what they're doing today, listen, Angel Hernandez is just a bad umpire.
I was just about to ask you, but you jumped right into it. So go ahead, lead with Angel.
Angel Hernandez was just 5 years too long. And it kind of reminded me of Ken Kaiser and some of the older Joe West, some of the older umpires that have been there just too long, that just are so honorary that they don't even they don't take that pride that they took when they were beginning umpires, and are just sick of all the rhetoric. I just think that if they change that rule of the catcher has to just try to frame a pitch instead of try to draw it into a strike, I think it would help the umpires. I would help their strike, and it would keep us from going to robo umpire.
Oh, man.
Yeah, which I think is the worst thing they could possibly do.
Yeah.
But I think that has to be addressed. I think the umpires union has to say, listen, this is why the umpiring is getting so bad, is that, we can't do our job, because this has turned into an art form from catchers. So I think that's one thing that probably needs to change.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll tell you what, Jim, when that news broke out of Angel Hernandez announcing his retirement, I could only imagine the fan base and the players and the team just all jumping up for joy. It was great, even though, Aaron Boone was trying to defend him. I kind of read some of his comments. I'm like, come on, man.
I was like, come on, Aaron, don't, although Aaron always is the kind of guy that says, listen, I'm not going to kick somebody when they're walking out the door. He was probably happy. And finally but like he said, and he's right. He's not the only umpire that's gotten to the point where they think they're bigger than the game. And that perspective needs to change a little bit too. That we always were told as a catcher, when you're not noticed, that's when you're doing a good job. The umpires got to start taking that more to heart. That when they're not, they need to be not noticed, and they need to do their job more. I mean, just the other day when Aaron got thrown out with that fan screaming and yelling. Yeah. And that umpire realizing, okay, I made a mistake, and not having the balls to go, all right, I made a mistake, Aaron. I didn't kick you out, but shut the people up over there.
Yeah, I know. When the umpire threw out Aaron Boone, I was like, are you kidding? Boone didn't even say anything. And I know Boone will come out and he'll yell at the umpires. I mean, he's not afraid to do that. Yeah. I'll give him credit for that. But yeah, that was a big mistake. I mean, my thing with Angel Hernandez is this. I thought he was a bad umpire. I mean, I've never heard anybody say anything great about him. Maybe other umpires like him. Maybe Major League Baseball, clearly they like him because he's been around for so long. It's not like I wish anything bad on the guy. Let him go enjoy his retirement. Hopefully things work out for him. But I'm just glad he's not an umpire no more because I'm like, man, you have done. I was like, you've made a lot of people angry.
Yeah, I mean, CC Sabathia was pretty honest about him.
Oh yeah, and CC does not hide how he feels.
And again, like I mentioned, I think Angel had some pretty good years.
He did,
but just like Nancy Pelosi stayed too long. The bottom line is there's a certain limit to where you need to get out and recognize that you need to get out and not just be protected because your union says, okay, you can go as long as you want and stay as long as you want. I think that was the situation with Angel, that it was just a couple of years too long, because I do think he had some pretty good years. And I just, again, overall, there's a lot of things that need to be changed with these umpires. And the first one, I think, is the strike zone. Yeah,
the strike zone is that's a tricky one because there's been some calls made at the plate when it came to these strikes and balls. I mean, there's some that were like that were clearly like too low, or it's like completely outside, and they call it a strike. I'm like, are you serious?
If you think about it, the hardest pitch for an umpire to see is the low strike because he's got the catcher's in the way.
Mm-hmm.
What basically he sees is where the catcher's mitt winds up.
Right.
And by allowing them to do all of this, pulling the ball up, you are hurting yourself as far as your judgment goes. And the most missed call is not outside and inside. It is the low strike. And it's because they allow the catchers to do that. If they would go back to just framing, and that catcher had to catch the ball right where it was pitched, you wouldn't have that issue. And I think, like I said, that's where the umpires union should step in and say, okay, we're just going to tell the catchers they can't do this anymore.
Yeah, well, we'll see if these changes happen. I mean, it just seems like every time Major League Baseball makes a change, it's not necessarily for the better. But we could always hope. We can always remain optimistic because I know certain names in Major League Baseball, particularly, and I hate to say his name, Manfred. A lot of folks are not happy with him. So, I don't. Obviously, you never played under Manfred. I mean, you played under Seeley, right, Bud Seeley. So,
I mean, basically, what I see, honestly, of course, we all have to be adaptable to change.
Yeah.
Because the world changes at all times. We have to be adaptable to change. I think, like I mentioned before, I consider the sabermetrics the far left, and I think, seeing the game and just going strictly on what you see is the far right. Somewhere they got to come back in the middle. And I think some of the other issues that we have to find a middle ground that can be beneficial for both sides. And I just think that the way I see the game a little bit more, I'm not going to say I'm old school because I do like some of the things that are happening. At the same time, when it's not broke, don't try to fix it.
Right.
Right. The game's been pretty good for a long time. So I think, like I said, there's a happy median to all this, but don't turn the game into a Nintendo, to where everything is computerized, where everything is already determined before. Like I said, when I'm watching college, I'm watching a Nintendo game because everything these guys are doing, they're seeing it on their watches. They're seeing it on these wristbands or waistbands that they have. I mean, it's just too hard to watch.
Yeah, no doubt. Like I said, like you said, there's been a lot of changes to the game, and it's always interesting to hear it from like a former player that grew up in a different time, and when the sport was so different. The players.
But I always say this.
Yeah.
The players must obviously like it because they have a union. And if they have a union and they don't like certain things, we can always go there and complain. And I haven't heard the players Besides, maybe the pitchers complain that the clock's a little too fast.
Right.
Besides that, I haven't heard too many complaints about what's going on.
Yeah, so it sounds like the players are really happy with it, like you said. But the pitch clock is the one thing that I know pitchers have complained about. It sounds like Major League Baseball is not going to do anything about it. There's been a lot of conversation about the pitch clock, and you've seen a lot of the injuries, especially with pitchers this year. It is way out of hand.
But here's my question.
Sure.
You don't think the pitch clock affects the game, which is what they're saying, then why is it not in the postseason? If you don't think putting a runner on second base affects the game, then why is it not done in the postseason? That just tells me that it does hurt the game. It does take away some of the integrity of the game.
Right.
So why aren't we making some adjustments? Why aren't we going to the 11th inning or 12th inning during the season? Why aren't we putting a 30, next year, let's put a 30-second clock in. Let's see how long the games last, and let's see if it makes a difference. Because now at a 30-second clock, I'm not missing a full inning by going to the concession stand. So my owners aren't losing money at the concession stand because I'm still willing to miss a half an inning, to go get some food, to go get my kids a hot dog, to go do that. But let's make the innings a little bit longer.
Yeah, I'd be okay with a 30-second pitch clock. That I would be okay with. I mean, if the pitch clock is here to stay, which it looks like it's going to stay, it's not going nowhere. I'm okay with 30 seconds because, like you said, and this was another conversation that I've had with other people. You spent, your average fan, they spend a lot of money going to these games, buying the tickets. Then it's like, okay, well, now they have to get up and go use the bathrooms, go to the concession stands, and they're waiting in line, and they miss like 2 innings. And by the time they come back, it's like the game is almost over. It's, for me, I'd be like frustrated. If I get up in the 5th inning, and next thing you know, it's the 7th inning, I'm like, I just missed almost a couple of innings. I'm like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, and I think that's where baseball has to look into, again, making that not getting rid of it, but just making some adjustments.
Yeah, they're not going to get rid of it. I mean, it's here to stay. I mean, the pitch clock is here to stay. The bigger bases, that's here to stay. The ghost runner, I mean, I don't think that's going to go anywhere. Although I'm glad they don't have the ghost runner thing in the playoffs. I am happy with that. I'm like, oh, thank God, man, because I don't know if I can even watch the playoffs with the ghost runner, because that would change the fate of a lot of games. So,
no, yeah. We'll see. Again, the good thing about it is, if you're a Yankee fan, this looks like it's going to be an exciting season. And I'll be in New York pretty much every home game, and I'm looking forward to seeing how things turn out.
Yeah, so you'll be there next weekend for.
Yeah, I work for a company called Grandstand Sports that give the tours of Yankee Stadium.
Oh, cool.
And they hire me for about 30 or 40 games. So I go to the stadium between 4 and 5:30. I actually give the tour, and fans love it because they get the history, but they also get more of some of the stories that I can share with them that they normally wouldn't get from just a regular person that gives the tours at Yankee Stadium. They get more of the good stories. So I do that, and then usually Wish You Were Here with Andrew Levy. He hires me for some of the suites. So I'll do some appearances in the suites during the game. And it's just really kind of cool, dude, to just hear the fans, talk to the fans, share stories with them, and just give back to them everything that they gave to us when we were playing. And I said, I'm just blessed to be a part of all that.
No, that's awesome. And again, as a fan, I appreciate you again, taking the time out of your day and just talking to us here, talking to me, man. And this is awesome. Like I never, like I again would have never thought in a million years like I'd be doing what I'm doing right now. And just talking to Jim Leyritz, like what, like who would have ever thought? But it's always great to see former athletes just talking to us fans, man, because we appreciate it. We get excited.
So when I was doing TV and radio, this is just to give you some incentive.
Yeah.
When I was doing TV and radio, there was a guy named Greg Amsinger who was just fresh out of college, was reading with me. I was his lead, was reading with me and was nervous, scared to death, had no idea what to do. Him and I did some shows together and did some things. And when he finally broke in, we see each other still to this day. And he says to me, Jimmy, thank you, because you made me comfortable. And and I want to thank you for taking me under your wing, because you had already been doing it. And that's a guy like Greg Amsinger. So you never know what's going to happen. At that time, he was just doing college stuff. And you see where he's at today. Dude, you're in good shape. Just work hard at it. Don't take no for an answer. And you never know what can happen. It's all in God's hands. And, hard work, dedication is all part of it.
I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you for the kind words. Yeah, that's a motivator for me, because when I started this, I was jumping on other people's channels, and I still interact with those channels. We all stay connected actually outside, so we all have these contact information. And I would jump on, I would jump on the open panels and try to get more comfortable with that. And then, I was a co-host with one of the content creators. He's like, hey, if you want to work with me, he's like, let me know. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. Let me see where this takes me. And then I started my own channel probably I started this channel back in December of 2023. And I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm going to go for it. And so I'm glad I did. I'm glad I'm here. You never know what opportunities are going to come your way. So it was a good, so if it wasn't for those folks that let me co-host and come on the open panels, man, it's just, I probably would have never done something like this. So I have them to thank.
There's a guy right now that you can look at, Keith McPherson.
Yes.
Keith tells, every time he meets somebody, he tells the story of how blessed he is and how lucky he's been given the opportunities. And it's all because he was willing to put himself out there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you need to do. And you know what? The talent rises to the top, but you'll never get that opportunity unless you have the confidence to say, listen, I'm going to do it. I'm going to fail, but I'm going to fail and I'm going to learn from it and never stop. And that's, like I told you, that's what my whole story was about, baseball wise, life wise. Everything wise that I've experienced to this day is all about never giving up, fighting for the truth, and just being as humble as you can possibly be.
Mm-hmm.
It's you can do it, and if you're doing a great job now, and
thank you.
Just stay at it, brother. Stay at it.
Will do. And thank you for the kind words. And like I said, I would love to have you on again.
Anytime.
Yeah. I'll talk to our guy here and get you on again, and maybe one day meet you face to face. I think that would be pretty awesome too. So,
all right, brother. Well, listen, thank you for having me, and best of luck to you. Like I said, if the Yankees are home, come out to the stadium. I'll be there.
All right, man. All right, Jimmy. I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on and talk to us. I had a lot of fun. I had a blast. This was a great interview. So glad to listen to your story and all your experiences. So thank you, Jim. Continue being you, man. You got my support. So you got all of our support. So thank you. Thanks so much.
Take care, man.
All right. You too. Thank you, Jimmy. All righty, folks. Well, that was Jim Leyritz. Hopefully you all enjoyed that interview. I know I enjoyed it. I had a blast. It was great having him on here. You had a lot of stories, man. It goes to show that no matter where you're at in life, whether you're having a good life, bad life, you're constantly tested. Good things happen, bad things happen. It's all in how you approach it, how you overcome it. Never take this life for granted. You never take life for granted, because, there's people out there, that have it, way worse. You think you're in bad shape. Like, it's one of those things where, you had a bad day of work, somebody wishes that they had a bad day of work, as they've got something else that's even worse than having a bad day of work. It's like, oh, well, I'm late to an appointment. Shoot. And we treat it like it's the end of the world. If you're late to an appointment, somebody wishes that was like their worst day, the worst day of their life, So you never know, again, where life is going to take you. I feel grateful. I feel blessed for a lot of things myself personally. I'm grateful for a lot of things, and I'm not perfect by any means. I'm definitely not perfect, but I do the best I can with life. But I'm going to close it out with that, folks. I hope you all enjoyed the interview. I know I did. I had a blast. I will definitely get Jim Leyritz back on again. This was a fun interview, even with the technical difficulties. It was a good time. I appreciate everybody on X, on YouTube, for tuning in. Thank you all for the questions. Thank you all for the kind words. Thank you for all of the support that you all give me. It is greatly appreciated. And I will see you guys at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I got another interview coming up. I hope to see all of you guys there. I'm going to be interviewing former baseball player, Major League Baseball player Luis Lopez. So we're going to get to know him a little bit, and he's going to tell us about his time as an athlete and his life, and I'm looking forward to that. And I got another show tomorrow. As I got two shows. Obviously, I got the morning show that I normally do on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then I'm interviewing Gosselin. Let me just make sure I get the right name for you, so I'm not saying the wrong name here. I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, Greg Golson. I'm going to see him. I'm going to interview him tomorrow, 5:00 Eastern Standard Time. So I'm doing two shows tomorrow. So one will be my morning show, and then the other one will be with Greg Golson at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I hope to see all of you there. Thank you all so much. I'm going to go ahead and close it out. Thank you all for your support, and I'll see you all in a few hours. Have a good day, and let's go Yankees. See you soon.